these AI, I guess, apps that are training apps, they certainly promise the world the next best thing. Why hire a
Right.
coach? Get everything for $15 a month.
Mhm.
But if you have 5 different AI bots, you're going to get 5 different workouts tomorrow. So if they're the world's best, shouldn't they all be saying the same thing? you know,
Yeah.
I think like coaches could actually sift through a lot more data right now than AI can.
Hey listeners, in this episode of Tech in 26.2 Pod, I sit down with Dirk Friel, founder of TrainingPeaks, an all-in platform providing coaching, training plans, performance analysis, and data syncs for athletes and coaches. In fact, TrainingPeaks solutions are used by Tour de France teams, Ironman world champions, Olympians, and age group athletes and coaches around the world to track, analyze, and plan their training. In addition to talking more about how TrainingPeaks platform helps the coaches and the athletes, Dirk also shares the trends in the industry that he has seen last 25 years and also where the industry is heading, especially in the age of AI or artificial intelligence. You don't want to miss that piece of that part of the conversation. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you do, make sure that you subscribe so that you get notified when I publish the next episode on this pod. Thanks for listening.
Welcome, Dirk. I'm super excited and glad to be chatting with you here on this podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Kamal. Thanks for having me on, and excited to have a good chat with you. Thanks.
So for our audience, clarity or clarify, Dirk is the co-founder and chief evangelist of a technology company or endurance tech company called TrainingPeaks. And it's in business for 25 years. So before I tell more about TrainingPeaks, maybe we can start with a quick introduction from you. Tell a little bit about yourself first.
Yeah, I run a bit. I run mainly in the fall and the winter.
Okay.
But I'm really kind of have a strong cycling background, and I was a professional cyclist for 12 years, and I lived in Europe for 5 years. And a lot of what I do today and TrainingPeaks is really rooted within my family and my father, Joe Friel. Um, he's an author of the Cyclist Training Bible, Triathlete's Training Bible, and 15 other books. And we had a family coaching business. And so that's kind of what spurred all this on way back, in the 80s and 90s. So I've seen quite a few decades pass. And so, yeah, I live in Boulder, Colorado. I ski a lot and I bike a lot and I run, in the fall and winter, kind of get ready for the ski season.
Oh, great. That's a great way to get ready for the ski tour running in winter.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, thanks for sharing your background. Yeah, you've been cycling professionally for a long, long time before you even started TrainingPeaks, right?
Yeah. I mean, I started cycling and racing at age 12, and
Oh,
that's
wow.
pretty much all I thought of from age 12 on. Sort of had my life kind of planned out, if you will, and I just dreamed of racing in Europe. And I was on, U.S. national junior team, and I would go to the Olympic Training Center and do training camps there in Colorado Springs, and we're talking in the 1980s, right?
Right.
Um, and then I turned 19 and I decided to drop out of school, and I got a one-way ticket to Belgium. And that was the way you did it back then, and there was very few easy paths to racing in Europe. So I pretty much just kind of dove straight in and dropped out of school and moved to Europe. And yeah, that was 1990 is when I moved to Europe. So
Oh,
I was
wow.
there for 5 seasons. And I, retired as a pro cyclist in 2002. So, yeah, it was a crazy wild ride, and thankfully I would do it all over the same again. It took me 9 years to graduate from university,
Yeah.
but I would absolutely do it the same way all over again. I was chasing my passion. I have a 21-year-old daughter now, and she's studying in London. So in many ways, she's kind of following me as well. So I just hopefully she's finding her passion, and we'll make something of it. And so yeah, same thing with me.
That's exciting to know. That's carry forwarding the torch. Looks like you picked up from your dad and you're passing it
Yeah.
on to your daughter. That's exciting. As I read about Training Pigs, looks like you started over a beer with your
Oh,
friend and your dad. Tell us a story about
yeah.
it. I'm always curious to learn about the founding story of an organization. It's always an amazing story behind it.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was racing professionally, cycling. I came back to the US in 1995
Okay.
to race over here. And my father had a coaching business
Right.
by this time. He evolved from being a high school football coach and high school track coach
Mhm.
to himself running marathons. My mom has run the Boston Marathon.
Oh,
My
great.
dad did a lot of marathons, and then triathlon started to become, a pretty cool sport. So
Mhm.
my parents took up triathlon, and my dad decided to leave the public school system as a teacher, and he bought a running store.
Oh,
And
okay.
he had one of the very first running stores in the United States. It was called Foot of the Rockies in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Mhm.
And then lo and behold, there was a bike shop next door, and he
Okay.
decided to buy the bike shop, tear down the wall in between, and he became the world's first triathlon store, which definitely was ahead of its time and was not successful. um, but it was great for me being, a 12-year-old. I lived the world of triathlon, cycling, running, swimming, but really cycling was what kind of I just had so much passion for cycling.
Mhm.
Um, so then I go off to Europe. I come back to America. My father has a coaching business, and I start coaching under my father. And that was 1997. And in those days, we were just getting the internet. Not everybody had
Right.
email,
Mhm.
and so we would send training programs either by fax machine or by email attachments.
Okay.
And just depended, what did the client have? What did the athlete have access to, right? And so we were sending, the programs out via attachments or fax machine,
Right.
sheets of paper, and then every Sunday night, the fax machine in the family, office would just fill up with paper every Sunday night of like that week's training logs from
I
our
see. I
clients.
see. I see.
And then a lot of our athletes started to get polar, heart rate monitors. Power Tap was one of the first power meters that was affordable.
Mhm.
Some of our clients had SRM power meters, for cycling, and they started by Power Tap power meters. And so now we were getting email attachments of these heart rate and or power files, and no one was using GPS yet, right?
Right.
But so now in order to open a polar file, I had to have a desktop software application to open
Right.
up that file format.
Yeah.
If someone sent me an SRM file, I had to open up the SRM software to open up the SRM file format. And so you would have like 3 or 4 different desktop applications open to work with one athlete, and you may have an email attachment, or email of like their training log. So
Deluxe.
data was fragmented. It was
Right.
horrible. It was horrible to try and consolidate. For those that would send us a fax, we would 3-hole punch it and put it in a 3-ring binder, and we
Yeah.
put it up on the shelf. And it was really hard to kind of pull the data out of handwritten records, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we start to have the internet, the late 90s. So I had this idea, vision. I pitched it to my father, and neither of us were developers or programmers,
Right.
engineers of any type. But luckily, a teammate of mine and the best man at my wedding, his name is Gear Fisher. He had a day job as a web developer, and he's the only developer I knew in the entire world. So he was living up near Vail, Colorado. So I went up and had a beer with him. And his name is actually George Arthur.
Okay.
Shortened it to Gear. But anyways, we went to a pub called the George, and the George is still there in Vail, Colorado. So we have fond memories of that bar, and we revisit it every so often. But yeah, I had a beer with him there and pitched him. I was like, hey, he understood our coaching business. He read my father's books. He understood, the business of coaching, if you will. He was an athlete, a cyclist, but most of all, he was the technology, behind the launch of TrainingPeaks. So luckily we had brand recognition from my father and his books. We kind of knew a lot of the coaches, and we had a coaching business where we did not at the beginning intend to start a software company, not at all. We were simply trying to create a better quality service for our athletes in our coaching business. And so it was an internal project for our coaching business. And that's where it first started. We went live with it in 2000, and it was simply for our 15 coaches that we had that we were coaching, cyclists, runners, and triathletes. But then towards the end of 2000, we had the idea that, hey, other coaches could really benefit from this. So we started to sell it actually outside of our own coaching group, and it actually started to bring in revenue. And we literally didn't even have that as a business plan. So it kind of developed a life of its own from effectively October 2000 to today.
Oh, wow. So basically you solved a problem that you and your father is having in your coaching business, and then eventually figured out how to scale it for other coaches.
Yeah, definite. And there are some trends that helped us along the way. But yeah, we definitely knew a lot of coaching businesses back then. And when I say a lot, there weren't a lot. So in the year 2000, quitting your day job and becoming a coach and having your real business that was coaching endurance athletes, that really didn't exist. There are only a handful of coaches doing that, but there are a lot of, coaches kind of doing it on the side. And so luckily we knew most of them, and they were using the fax machine and email as well. And there's no other option.
Yeah.
And immediately when they saw it, they were like, wow, that would make my life so much better. And the service that they could deliver to their athletes would immensely improve. So yeah, we started to get those early adopters, and it started to scale. And we had no debt. We didn't raise any money. It wasn't virtual capital. There was none of that back then. We say, it was truly 100% bootstrapped. If $1 came in, we reinvested 80 cents and we kept 20 cents for ourselves. And that's effectively what we do all the way to today. That margin is definitely a very important thing for our business. We built a long-standing, profitable, growing business, and still privately held. And, we have one investor, and it's, anyway, so that's kind of at the root of our DNA as a business.
Great.
And it's all for the long haul, if you will. Like, we've never made any short-term decisions. It's always been for the long haul. And we've never taken an advertising dollar. That was also very, very unique in the year 1999, 2000. Every web business was powered by advertising. And to this day, we've never taken an ad dollar. And luckily, the profession of coaching really took off, and technology took off within endurance sports. So it was a great time to start that business.
Great. What is the story of getting your first paying customer? Because this is always a fascinating story. Like, okay, someone take their wallet out. Okay, Dirk, I'm willing to pay you for whatever services the TrainingPeaks is offering.
Yeah, it was really kind of like close friends, if you will. Like I said earlier, it was, you're doing we were outreaching to a lot of small businesses and coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily some here in Northern Colorado, trusted what we were developing,
Okay.
and they were the first to come on board. So I guess the next phase was like selling to people that you don't even know. That was like a big deal. I was like, wow, I didn't even know there was a coaching business in Missouri,
Right.
like,
Right.
and then you just start to look into who those new customers were. But certainly at the beginning, it was just folks that we knew, literally in Boulder,
Okay.
Colorado. And we would just sit around the dining room table, and that was how we were
Onboard
selling
them.
it.
Yeah.
We had no advertising,
Mm-hmm.
and search engines just didn't really exist, or they weren't very good,
Right.
So I think it was a lot of literally meeting face to face. That is how we started to build the business, with local coaches.
Oh, wow. That's great. So let's come, get forward to today. Like, what is TrainingPeaks today? I know it's an all-in-one platform. Like, how it is serving the athletes and the coaches?
Yeah. Well, at the root of what we do is we help people learn a new skill. We want you to prepare for an event,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to learn and practice along the way. And ideally, you apply deliberate practice. So that's what we believe. We believe you should work and seek out expert advice.
Mm-hmm.
You set a goal, you register for that race, you look for expert advice, you do focus practice, you get immediate feedback, and you repeat that. And that's on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly, an annual basis, decade over decade.
Right.
Ideally, once you start down the path of being an endurance athlete, it never ends. It can be hopefully it's with you for the rest of your life, and you continue to evolve as an athlete, maybe one sport to another. So with deliberate practice being at the heart of what we do, a lot of what we focus on is obviously servicing the coach. If the coach isn't successful first, we can't be successful.
Right.
So we do a lot to help educate coaches. We do a lot to try and build, business for coaches. When athletes come to us looking for a coach, we can help refer athletes to coaches that we work with. We're not a coaching business. We don't hire coaches, but we are a software business that's in the middle. We're the technology between coach and athlete. And so obviously we have to stay on the forefront of technology, all new training devices that athletes may be using. We need to see if it's, should we become compatible? That's becoming easier and easier these days to be compatible with devices. So we work with a lot of different partners and hardware vendors to make sure we're compatible, and so that the coach can rely on us to be their technology partner.
Okay. And from a numbers point of view, because I'm a data guy and I love to talk about numbers, how do you set TrainingPeaks in terms of the athletes or the coaches that you're supporting?
How many? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, it's kind of in terms of numbers, so that you can understand the scale of TrainingPeaks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have tens of thousands of coaching businesses that are customers of ours. And when I say that, it's not just cycling, running, triathlon. It's a very, very diverse coaching customer base. And I say, if you are in a sport where you care about heart rate, speed, or distance, you're a prime candidate to be on TrainingPeaks. A football coach would not get hardly any value out of TrainingPeaks. But actually, an Olympic sailing coach does. And we have Olympic sailing teams on TrainingPeaks because they train on the dry land. We have, America's Cup boats. American Magic is one of our teams that we work with. And those athletes train very, very hard, for yacht racing. and they
Right.
care about power and heart rate and distance and time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very, very fun, diverse to find out all the different sport types that are on TrainingPeaks. We have, race car drivers. Race car drivers train very hard to prepare for those hot conditions, in their
Right.
cockpits, etc. So yeah, that's and we have whatever few million accounts created within TrainingPeaks. But I think we're not so much about the volume per se, but we are very much about performance.
Right.
So I believe, in order to kind of start getting benefits from TrainingPeaks, you sort of have to have that internal drive, passion, and a goal in
Mhm.
mind. Oftentimes that is an event, but more and more it's not. A lot of people are doing these journeys where they want to run across the Pyrenees, and it's not an actual event. It's a journey they're taking, or they want to climb Mount Everest or some major expedition. It's
Mhm.
not an event, but it's it's a journey that they're on. And so at the end of the day, they have this kind of hard goal that they want to attain, and they look for help in achieving that. And so within TrainingPeaks, a rest day is just as or more important than your hard days.
Makes
And
sense.
a lot of apps out there, it's the opposite. They only care about your hard days. Who did you beat today? And we're more about like, who are you going to beat 4 months from now? We're going to prepare you for that event 4 months away, or it might be 18 months away. So yeah, we really look at training holistically, and you
Mhm.
can capture. We're coming out with strength training within TrainingPeaks. So we'll have
Great.
strength, set, rep, weight, video, strength exercises, all contained within TrainingPeaks. So we found 70% of our athletes actually do strength training. So that was a
Right.
big feature for us to come out with in the next few months. So yeah, it's ever evolving. That's what's fun.
Yeah, that's I can say. So if I'm looking at it from an athlete point of view, or say myself as a runner, looks like you are integrating with all the sportswear technology or companies
Oh
out
yeah.
there, right? So you can get the
Oh
data
yeah.
from there, and that can help them analyze those key data points that you set for coaches, and they can give them feedback and how they're doing on.
Yeah.
And then you are, if I'm looking at it, you're supporting triathlons, running, cycling, strength training, winter sports, swimming, rowing, and more categories. So
Yeah.
the whole suite of sports that you're covering with endurance athletes as well. If you look at from a the coach point of view, and you mentioned
Yeah.
that you're supporting their businesses, I'm just curious to see, how you're enabled through technology to support coaches' businesses. Like you mentioned that the clunkiness of, manual operation, you take it away from the coaches. But if you say in today's age, how you're enabling them coaches to run their businesses through the TrainingPeaks technology.
Yeah. We help the coach at the beginning. It was about managing data and
Right.
managing. You might have 40 athletes you're working with, or 20 athletes, but amongst those 20 athletes, they may actually be using 10 different devices.
Mm-hmm.
So to know that we can consolidate all that data, all that incoming training data,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's more than training, right? You have sleep data
Yes.
from Whoop and Garmin and all kinds of things. So all that data is coming in from those devices, those wearables,
Right.
right? So that's certainly a key value proposition we bring to coaches. Beyond that, on the business side of things, we're developing solutions to help like onboarding. So
I see.
helping a coach create bundles that they can sell in their shopping cart. And then once that athlete comes in, do some automation in terms of like assigning them to, a coaching business might have 8 assistant coaches. So if someone, one particular coach may only offer this one particular service, and if an athlete signs up for that service,
Right.
automatically attach that new account to that specific coach and layer in this, unique content from day one. Their first week is already planned for them from day one, for example. So we can start to streamline a lot of the onboarding for coaches on the business side, and the billing cycles, and helping manage, that billing side of things for businesses. So that's certainly a lot of stuff we're working on right now that we've been pioneering with some of the larger coaching groups internally, which will roll out to more coaches. So we become a partner. We have an amazing coach directory. So if an athlete is in Kansas City, Missouri, and they're looking for a run coach, they can go to our coach directory and go to their local town and see if there's a local coaching group. A lot of athletes want to work with their coach, obviously in person. For other athletes, it doesn't matter. So that's unique, athlete to athlete, and not every coaching business offers in-person coaching, right? So it's coaching businesses are unique in terms of the type of clients that they attract. So we can help do pairings between athlete and coach. And we actually have a service called the Coach Match service.
Yeah, I saw that.
You might be in a town where there are 30 coaches.
Right.
Boulder, Colorado has more than that. So how do you go about finding a coach? And so we'll work with you. You can fill out a survey. We go through that. Then we come back to the athlete with 3 options of good coaches that meet their needs. And then we invite the athlete to interview those coaches. And I believe a good coach-athlete relationship really needs to be at a personal level. It's not just numbers. So I highly recommend athletes interview their coaches and see if they get along at that personal level, because you should be sharing a lot of stuff, with your coach on the personal side as well, because it all really does affect your training. So we help coaches build their businesses as well and find new athletes.
Great. So, and the match program, so athlete, you match with the coach, and then they interview the coach. They can do all in the TrainingPeaks platform that enables them, the athlete as well as the coach?
Yeah, exactly. So the athlete fills out the questionnaire. We help them find a coach. If they want to work with that coach, then we can attach that athlete account to that coach.
I see.
And then if the coach wants, we can actually take care of the billing, on their behalf, to make it easier for the coach to not have to hire a bookkeeper, for example. So, and then, we have a training plan store. So a lot of athletes maybe aren't willing, ready, whatever, to hire a personal coach, and they just want to start with a low cost option. They're doing their first half marathon. They could spend $49 and get a 8-week training plan, for example, or 12-week training plan for their first half marathon. And then that loads into their account. We then obviously provide those funds back to the coach, the author that created that training plan, and then we deliver the content to the athlete. So there we have, a lot of coaches sell a lot of training plans, and that's a large part of their business.
Oh, great. One of the key things when someone would be looking for a coach is to build an accountability partner, right? Hey, I said that I'm running for Boston coming up in a couple of weeks, and my longest run would be next Sunday. And I'm supposed to go easy on first 6 miles. And, I need an accountability partner. I can go really fast, or I can ignore completely the training plan and, hey, I didn't feel good today, so I'll just do 12 miles or whatever, But when you have some accountability partner, you still say, hey, someone is looking up to me or looking at what I'm doing. So they build this accountability partner to stay on course, based on the training plan they choose to. I'm just also curious to see how does TrainingPeaks enables that, because it is, you're talking about performance, and this is the performance of the athlete that, the TrainingPeaks as a platform is enabling them. Is that something TrainingPeaks also helps athletes to keep, the accountability partner through technology? Yeah,
absolutely. That's a large part of our deliberate practice kind of cycle, if you will, and get immediate feedback. The immediate feedback part is kind of what you're honing in on. Technology can help with that immediate feedback, as well as a personal coach can help with that component and that accountability. I mean, for example, if you complete a workout and you're working with a coach can actually enable what we call, notifications. So let's say athlete completes their workout, it gets up to TrainingPeaks from their Garmin watch, and then that immediately triggers a notification to the coach. The coach then gets it, and it's like 24/7, just in time coaching, if you will.
Yeah.
The coach can get that notification, immediately read the comments, post workout comments of how did it feel, how did it go, whatever issues they had. They could then go in a layer deeper and actually look at the file, look at the data, and see if they did as planned or completed as planned. This can all be done on the coach's mobile phone. Literally a coach could be in the dentist office waiting for their dentist appointment, and they get a notification, and they quickly go in, look at a few key comments, data points, and immediately hit reply and get back to the athlete with post-workout comment, all contained within TrainingPeaks. Coach can say, hey, all right, you hit the distance, the time, but you know what? The first 5 miles, you went out too fast. When we do this workout next week, I want you to slow it down the first 5 miles. But that's this amazing, when you say partner, it's a true partnership, and that's what's really fun and exciting, and that's where you really bond and connect with the coach. The athlete will receive that tough love, and a lot of times coaching is tough love, and it's saying, hey, good job, or this was horrible. Hopefully it's not like that every day, but it's like, good job, but tomorrow we need to work on this new skill. The athlete then on that daily basis is getting that immediate feedback, and they're fine-tuning it day to day. And it's not all about the data. Oftentimes you have the subjective data and you have the objective data, and the subjective data is the comments and how you felt and the rate of perceived exertion, your mood, your appetite, relationship with your husband or wife, right? Things are going bad at work. That stuff oftentimes does override the training plan. That's where a coach can come in and really do a much better job than a free training plan in Runner's World magazine, right? And everybody's deserving of that. Like, if you have this big goal, you don't have to be an elite to warrant a coach. Someone that only has 6 to 8 hours a week to train, has a family and a day job, those are very valuable 6 hours they have to train. And so let's make the most of those 6 or 8 hours, or whatever it might be, because they do want to finish the Chicago half marathon or whatever it is. So yeah, you're worthy of a coach and that partner.
No, that's great. I just jumped in to highlight, because TrainingPeaks is enabling the athletes to get that accountability partner, online or offline, right? That's what you're enabling them, the athletes, with. It's just a great way of looking at from an athlete point of view. Now, Dirk, you have seen a lot last 25 years building TrainingPeaks. I'm just curious, what are the trends you have seen, especially in endurance tech, as you build TrainingPeaks? And then we're going to touch on what's next. But I need to see, what are the trends you have seen?
Well, obviously coaching, the growth of coaching, it was enormous. I mean, I think it really, you have to give a lot of credit to triathletes. They really were the first, sport, if you will, to really they had no inhibitions in terms of, triathlon had no tradition. It was a brand new sport. They didn't have a cycling traditions, running traditions, swimming traditions. They created their own culture, right? And they quickly adopted technology. Triathletes quickly adopted coaching. A triathlete is very highly likely to hire a coach, much more so than a runner. It's very difficult to manage 3 different sports and nutrition, et cetera.
It is.
And so that was a big trend. I owe a lot to the sport of triathlon in terms of, these adoptions of coaching and technology.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, triathlon is a very expensive sport. So in a way, they would adopt new technology because they were used to, spending a lot of money.
Right.
But then that transcended into cycling. And as power meters really took off,
Mm-hmm.
in the mid 2000s, 2007, 8 timeframe, that's where you'd probably see this hockey stick effect of like power meters really kind of taking off and being
Mm-hmm.
adopted within the cycling, hence as well as within triathlon. And that was a big trend. Learning, I say like, if you bike without a power meter, it's like you see the world two-dimensionally. But
Mm-hmm.
once you incorporate power, you now see the world in 3 dimensions. You see
I see.
this additional workload that you can't capture without power.
Mm-hmm.
So it's somewhat like pace, right, in running.
Right.
But
Right.
yet pace doesn't pick up a headwind and a tailwind. It does,
Right.
but power does. So it's kind of the raw third dimension that a lot of sports lack. But cycling can be so precise. So we
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot from cycling that can be applied over to running. So, for example, in cycling, there's my father kind of pioneered a data metric called decoupling, where we
Uh-huh.
look at power and heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you maintain the same power, your heart rate is going to deviate at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But as you get fitter, that deviation point is farther and farther along, right? You're getting,
Right.
some people call today durability. So
Mm-hmm.
you can maintain the same intensity for longer at the same heart rate or the same input.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing you could do with pace. So decoupling with pace, you could do a workout consistently over time and as somewhat of a test, and you can see that improvement. So we saw a lot of innovation come out of cycling due to the power meter.
Uh-huh.
And then from there on the running side, GPS is now everywhere. Like you
Right.
pretty much don't buy a watch, obviously a smartwatch or a training wearable watch that doesn't have GPS. And so runners used to just do, pace on the track, and they would maybe do their long run and they would drive their car before or after the run
Yeah.
to actually find out how far they went.
Yeah.
Now they can do it in real time, from their wrist. So as wearables took off within running, we became more attractive to runners to manage all that data.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be a Garmin customer today and a Polar customer next year and a Suunto customer the year after that. So, hopefully you're not keeping all your data in one of those data sets. Hopefully you're keeping
Right.
it within TrainingPeaks or a third party, that's compatible with all the different devices.
Right.
And now with the running, we're getting power meters within running. We have the Stride power meter, and Garmin, all brand new Garmin devices have it built in natively for run power.
Mm-hmm.
So run power can be very, very valuable for a lot of training. Not so good in trail running and ultra running because of undulations and steepness and grades, etc. But for pure running, power is becoming a valuable metric for runners to leverage as well. And we're compatible with the running power meters. So those are some key trends, coaching, new technology. Now, obviously in the last 5 years or so, a lot of people are tracking HRV and
Mm-hmm.
sleep data. So we're compatible with all of that. So how does your HRV and sleep compare to the training you've been doing, and how might you make decisions based off of that data going forward? There's a lot of data coming in, where a coach can help you out. And not all data points are equal, right? So
Right.
trying to decide which data points to look at and make decisions from is becoming more and more complicated.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because that would be a data point, because this is off the track, right? Either it's cycling or running or motor racing, because those data points are off the primary sport that are actually enabling them. What is the story of that performance that he or she just
Mm-hmm.
uploaded, right? You did not sleep well, so it may impact your performance if you're doing a training schedule. So
Yeah.
maybe they can connect the dots. But I would guess also you probably have to educate even the coaches too, because you are seeing the data point from a holistic view across, all these dimensions or development or technology trends. Now you have to bring probably up to speed the coaches, like, hey, this is a data point, maybe you should incorporate in your training or learn about it, how you can help or better help the athletes. Is that the case
Yeah.
happening too?
Yeah, we certainly have an education department. We have a TrainingPeaks University
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
focused on helping coaches. So we have a lot of courses there where
yeah.
we have experts present on new technologies, new data, how to leverage this new data.
Mhm.
Sorry. So we definitely take it upon ourselves to help educate the athlete, or sorry, the coach. But we also lean on the national governing bodies heavily as well.
Uh-huh.
So USA Track and Field, USA Triathlon, cycling. We work with, I don't know, 35 different national governing bodies. And so we really want, there to be some national governing body within that sport that coach can go get certified from.
I
Ideally,
see.
coaches are becoming certified in their sport. And then I like the model where there's continuing education units.
Mm-hmm.
So whereby a coach needs to get so many CEUs per year to maintain their coaching license. They have
Right.
insurance. That's really important. So legitimizing, the profession of coaching, I still feel we have a long ways to go in all endurance sports.
Right.
Some sports are farther along than others, and many, obviously, nation by country is very, very different. So that's an ongoing issue, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
educating the coach, and good, smart coaches should realize it's ever evolving and they should
Right.
always be learning from
Yeah.
others. And I like when coaches open up and there's no secrets. There's no more secrets. There's no secret workout, right?
Right.
And the secret is in the sequencing of the workouts specific to that individual. That
Mm-hmm.
is the secret of a really good coach, is they can leverage the feedback they're getting from the athlete to prescribe tomorrow.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely think coaches should embrace education, and continuing education is definitely a very important aspect that we definitely put resources into.
That's great. Another area that we should definitely touch on as we are talking about the trends is what's happening in the industry, especially with AI or artificial intelligence
Yeah.
last couple of year or two. Now, how do you see that the specific personalized coaching industry can adapt these upcoming technologies, especially AI, to enhance the
Yeah.
experience for both athletes and the coaches more?
Yeah. No, absolutely. AI is here to stay.
Right.
Not quite sure how quickly it becomes adopted or valuable, but certainly on our side, we want to adopt AI to help the coach first. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like AI is in a state right now where it can help the expert more than the consumer per se.
Uh-huh.
A lot of, when you go to ChatGPT and you ask it any question you want, you actually kind of have to be an expert to know what's the right question to ask.
True.
If you ask the wrong question, it's going to take you down the wrong rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
And just because it's in ChatGPT does not mean it's true. There's
Right.
a lot of false information
Mm-hmm.
in these language learning models today. It's
Yeah.
all they're doing is simply looking at the entire internet, right?
Right.
So that doesn't make it true. And so I feel like we need to bring to the coach, AI that helps them be smarter, faster, better in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
to help analyze, first the data coming in, so they can make a better decision of what to do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I think unfortunately today within the world of AI, it's a race to the bottom. These AI, I guess, apps that are training apps, they certainly promise the world the next best thing. Why hire a
Right.
coach? Get everything for $15 a month.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have 5 different AI bots, you're going to get 5 different workouts tomorrow. So if they're the world's best, shouldn't they all be saying the same thing?
Yeah.
I think like coaches could actually sift through a lot more data right now than AI can. A coach can understand in your comments that you had a sore right calf was getting tight. Okay, so let's not do tomorrow's hill repeats or strides or whatever it might be. They can take in a lot more nuance and help the athlete make a better decision for tomorrow's workout currently. But I think AI right now is a really good solution, certainly for beginner athletes that want to spend $15 a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number one thing at the beginning is consistency and getting at least some sound advice. But you can't say all AI out there is going to give you sound advice. If the AI says go out and do 5 times 1 kilometer repeats with 30-second recoveries,
Mm-hmm.
that can be way over the head for a beginner, right? So I think you need to be cautious at this stage, but it's certainly here to stay. It's going to evolve and get better. And so I think we're going to apply it first to the coach so they can help the athlete in the end.
No, that makes total sense, that you're enabling the people who are actually helping the athletes to use the technology to help them better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you see a day where a AI coach can be as effective as a personal coach?
I think an AI can do a large part of the coaching for sure down the road.
Mm-hmm.
That final mile, if you say
Yeah.
the like, there's still going to be a lot of override from a coach. And to tell you the truth, like if I talked earlier about notifications, like post workout notifications.
Yeah.
So if I do today's workout and it comes back from the AI and says, great workout, my coach might come back with the very same thing and say, great workout.
Mm-hmm.
But internally, I get a much different feel and vibe because I know a person actually is investing in me, right?
Right.
And I get back to that person and I say, hey, thanks, coach. That was such a fun workout. I can't wait to do that next Wednesday. Can I run an extra 2 miles tomorrow? I feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that same response goes to AI. Number one, can AI, accommodate for those comments and make those decisions? And I believe yes, at some point it will.
Right.
But again, I'm not going to have that fuzzy feeling and that really good vibe when the coach comes back and says, actually, no, you should not do the extra 2 miles tomorrow. Let's take the easy day. Remember, your right calf was sore 3 days ago.
Right.
Like,
right.
There's so much more depth to working with that coach and that final mile, the final decision making, and that actual human connection. Is really what makes, and what I want to say champions, but you finishing your first half marathon in your goal time is making you a champion. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's not just for the elites that deserve that human interaction to help them reach their goals. So I think there's always going to be a fault in computer AI because you're not going to have that human interaction. And oftentimes when I'm in the hardest point of the race, I might push a little harder because of that human coach that's standing there at the finish line.
It does.
Right?
Happens,
It's the coach that got me out of bed at 5 a.m. more than the AI got me out of bed at 5 a.m, right?
Yeah,
and the coach is there at the finish line. The coach is also helping me with pre-race strategy, post-race review. That's really, really important. And AI doesn't always know that your competitor went out too hard. And
Mm-hmm.
should you go out with that competitor at their pace,
Yeah.
or hold back and do your pace? It depends on the course, depends on the race, depends on your competitors. If you're racing for the podium, that matters. And that's something very, very, very far off from AI in terms of helping you make decisions before the race of how to, yeah, if all you had were the numbers, it'd be an equal straight line. Yeah, do equal
Yeah.
pacing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It is
actually racing, especially in cycling, triathlon, ultra running, trail running, there's so much more than just holding it and maintaining an equal pace, mile after mile.
right.
So yeah, it's a long-winded answer. I think AI will do a lot of coaching, and coaches will embrace it. It'll help coaching, but I don't think it's going to overtake personal coaching.
Yeah, but I think what you are referring to is that you still need the human in the loop for the last mile that you just mentioned, or the last mile use cases that you just went through. You still need a human to make those decisions to better help the athletes than an AI bot. Coaches can deploy AI bots to help certain like easy decisions that can output from the data that they can refer back to the athletes. But for that couple of last mile scenarios that you just laid out, you still want the human in the loop. Maybe it will enable coaches to scale more, because now you have an AI agent or AI bot helping them to go through the training data and get some inference and feedback, which they have to do, which is easy to do. You can train the bot to do those things, but the last mile, they still have to do more. Now that's great way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was, if let's say you had an AI bot and a personal coach, and they both happen to prescribe the very same training.
Yeah.
I would bet on the athlete that has the human interaction to perform better.
Makes sense.
So that's never going to go away, I believe. I hope we don't replace humans.
Yeah, we are all learning, and we'll see how it evolves to go from that. Dirk, it is great chatting with you. I really appreciate your time. I learned myself quite a bit about TrainingPeaks and personalized endurance training, and how TrainingPeaks enabling both the athletes and the coaches and supporting them. So thank you so much for sharing everything about TrainingPeaks.
Yeah, thanks, Kamal, and good luck to all of your listeners out there training for their individual goals. It's exciting stuff, and hopefully it all goes well for everybody. So yeah, thanks a lot.